So it seems to be a major gym rat bro goal to be able to bench 3 plates. But realistically, is everyone capable of benching 315 if you're American or 140 kgs if you're anywhere else in the world? So I keep coming across this term and topic being discussed known as physique inflation. And basically what this is over time our expectations of what a achievable physique looks like has kind of gone wayward. This is due to a few various things, one of them being the fact that PEDs and steroids use have kind of been normalized. Like it used to be a dark, shady thing that only like weird people used, as well as with the social media really pushing fitness. The industry's grown to the point that you can now make such a good living on social media that we are constantly being fed like the 0.00001% of genetic freaks that just look fantastic. But I don't think that this is something that is only applicable to physiques. Same goes for what is now considered like strength standards, achievable strength standards. And the one that brings a lot of guys initially into the gym is the bench press. Now I've been a coach for nearly 15 years. And in my time I've been there, I've seen this goalpost of strength standards shift for what people should expect to be able to do in the gym. Similar to the fact that when people first started wanting to train with me, they looked at Brad Pitt from Fight Club as something that they wanted to look at. And now if you were to look like this and you were to post it online, you'd get some gym bro telling you look mid. A similar thing has happened with strength standards because when I started coaching people, everyone wanted to be able to bench 2 plates. Now, as someone that has coached hundreds of men at this point, I can tell you that even 2 plates is rare. Most people, given enough time, might make their way up to a 100 kg bench press, but it is not something that's going to happen in a year. I've trained some people for multiple years and they've never ever managed to crack it. I do think if you prioritize it and you had good training, the vast majority of people could get there. But here's the thing. A 2-plate bench is still rare for a person to be able to do. Now, if we're going into a 3-plate bench, it becomes even rarer. If you were to take general population, you might find that maybe 1% of men can bench 2 plates. So can you imagine how much smaller 3 plates is? Now, there's a few different factors that come into play on what allows someone to be able to bench 3 plates. The first one I want to say is just time and consistency. There is no fast way of building up that brutal strength, right? You might be able to see massive leaps in a squat or a deadlift, but a bench press is just a whole different kind of beast. You don't have nearly as many cheats to fall back on to changing up of leverages, using the wrong things to power through sticking points. The bench, whilst it being a compound movement, is much more isolated and leaves a lot less on the table to work with. So therefore, you need equal parts technical efficiency and then just building up strength over a long enough time to be able to actually improve at the bench press. Secondly, the bench is a lift that actually loves higher frequency lifting, as in you don't just have your bench day, you have multiple bench days throughout the week. This one needs to be caveated for the fact that if you're going to be benching multiple times a week, you now have to be managing load. And as soon as you start managing load, you actually need decent programming. Everyone loves to bench heavy, but you can't be benching heavy multiple times a week. That's just a recipe to destroy your shoulders. So there's no bro lifting your way to a 140 kg bench. You're going to actually have to plan how to get there. Next, make sure that your technique is right. The bench press is the most common lift I come across where people think they have experience doing it and they're benching completely wrong. We have ways of tightening up your back, setting your shoulders, setting the grip, doing all these things in order to make sure that your bench press is consistent rep to rep. Nothing matters, no matter how many reps you're doing, no matter how much weight you're moving, if your technique is changing every time you bench. So take the time to bench light enough to figure out what your form actually is supposed to be like. Get a coach, someone who knows what they're doing, to actually help you along. Third, too much maximal lifting. The bench press doesn't like heavy weights all the time. Most people build up their benches through sub-maximal lifting, right? So under that 80% range, spending most of your time there. This is because the shoulders are delicate muscles, right? It is very easy to overuse them and get strains even with the best benching form. You've probably felt like you've got momentum building your bench and then something doesn't quite feel right and your shoulder's a bit jacked up, and this is probably because you're spending too much time in those heavy ranges. You need to trust the process that if you build out your volume base as much as possible, preferably over multiple sessions within the week, that you are in fact getting stronger at that top range, while still giving yourself moments to express top range strength so you don't lose the technique of being able to rep something for a single rep. And finally, there 100% is just a pure genetic component when it comes to benching. I'll be honest, when I started lifting and I didn't know what the hell I was doing, I benched 100 kgs in my first 6 months of training without any direction. I thought this was normal till I started training other men and I realized, oh, this is kind of abnormal. Most people are not going to bench 2 plates within 6 months. So I have some genetic gifts that allow me to bench heavier than most dudes can my size. I've never quite figured out exactly what it is for me. My limb length is pretty even all the way, so it's not like I have short T-Rex arms, but I definitely have a barrel chest as well as quite wide clavicles, which gives me good leverages at the bottom of the bench press, right? Because the barrel chest shortens my range of motion, and the wide clavicles just give me a leverage advantage out of the hole. The shorter your clavicles, the smaller your rib cages, the harder you're probably going to find it to bench. Then when you put on longer arms or anything like that, it becomes more and more difficult. Basically, if you're bad at the bench press, you're normally good at the deadlift, so don't worry, not all is lost. Maybe you just need to switch priorities. But I think really why I wanted to make this video wasn't to give you some tips and tricks on how to bench. Otherwise, I would have made it a much more structured approach to explaining this. For me, it's more about setting expectations and letting you know that from a person that coaches many, many men of many backgrounds, I can tell you 3-plate bench is super rare. A 2-plate bench is also rare. And whatever your genetic cards that have been played to you are, it's what you've got, and you just have to kind of learn to not judge what's on the internet. In the time I've been around, I've gone from being extremely strong on social media to being extremely average. And that wasn't because I got worse, it's because the amount of people we're being exposed to have gotten better. So strength training is always going to be your own journey. As cheesy it is, it's you versus you. So don't get caught up on the idea that you have to be able to bench 3 plates. If you do want good programming, check out my app, the Strength Block app. There's a free 14-day trial in the link below. Maybe pick up this dope t-shirt as well. Who knows? But anyway, I just wanted to check in and say that. Peace.